Hey everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you're tuned in to the review of Married at First Sight, Season 12, Episode 15. So before we get started, don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be the first to find out when I post these videos. All right, let's just jump in. This week they went to, where was it? I think Hilton Head for a couples retreat. And they also got some solo time to talk, but not talk about decision day. Like some of them are saying, hey, you already know what I'm thinking. And, you know, I think just production wise, they're kind of keeping it aloof. They don't want to necessarily say, you know, what their decision is. But they also got some exercises from Dr. Pepper, and they did all of that. So let's just jump in. I don't really have much to say about certain couples this week. Okay, so let's kick it off with Jake and Haley. Jake and Haley, I don't know why we're watching them anymore. And I said that last week. It's like, how much more uncomfortable moments do we have to sit through with Jake and Haley? It got so petty. It started getting petty with the bracelet and the hat, but it got so much more petty this week when they were going tit for tat back at that table. First of all, they drove separately. That's the state of affairs here with them. They drove separately. They sleep in separate bedrooms. They've been doing that. I think they may have slept together once after Dr. Viviana went and talked to them, but I don't think they really consistently slept together because they don't get along, because they don't like each other. So they drove separately. There was a miscommunication with them cooking dinner for the group. There's just a lot of passive aggressiveness because they don't like each other. They're fed up. And so even they played a couples game that night, the first night they got there, and I thought it was a fun game actually, but Jake and Haley won, and it showed why they were matched on paper. And so they say, like in the confessionals, well, you know, I see why we were matched, and Jake is like, oh, hopefully this stays that way. And, you know, almost like giving the indication that this relationship might work. How? Like, how? This relationship is not going to work. It's done, and it's been done for a long time. They are doing the best that they can, but the relationship is not going to work. And I think Haley's like, yeah, I see why we were matched, but it's too far gone now. It's too far gone. Jake is really checked out. Haley, to me, really never checked in. Even when Jake left, and the state of affairs is that Jake even left after them having a pretty decent time after the, you know, tit for tat that first night, a pretty decent time going crabbing and stuff like that. Jake packed his little duffel and just rolled on out in the morning. Didn't say anything, didn't send a text message. That's where things are with them. And she gets up and she was like, I didn't know, you know, she looks for him. And I'm thinking, like, you guys are at such a state that you don't even say leaving, see you back at the apartment, nothing. So it's beyond repair. And there's not even a friendship here. There's not a friendship at all. So, you know, doing a deep dive into Jake and Haley this week, I can't. You know, we already know how that's going to end, and it probably should end that way because there's no anything here to sustain a friendship, more or less a marriage. That's Jake and Haley. Next we have Ryan and Clara. I continue to misread Ryan and Clara because I don't think we're given all the information here, so I don't know what's real. Every now and then I will see Ryan do something endearing that is like unprompted. He'll like kiss her on the forehead, or he'll just lean in for a kiss where I'm like, that felt natural, but they seem so different to me. And I don't get this, like I've said, I feel like I say it every week, I don't get this genuine couples connection from them. So it's hard for me to see how it'll work out. It could, you know, we've had couples in the past surprise us, but what I'm seeing now is there's some fundamental differences with them in terms of thought and the way that they want to raise kids and just who they are. They might have a genuine friendship at this point because they keep saying that. But I don't know if Clara's basing saying yes with hearing I love you. I don't think that's going to happen in a week. And I think she has resounded herself to or resigned herself to, just inferring what he means based on what he says, which I don't think is good enough anyways, but she's, maybe she's getting something that we don't see. I think this week in the letters that they wrote to each other, Ryan was the warmest I've seen towards her. Ingenuity. That's saying a lot because he still didn't really give much, but I felt like he gave a little bit more than normal. But they also have just like a pretty cool companionship, I think. I think they'll stay together. I don't know how long that will go, but I do think that they will stay together, and we'll see. Because there's some stuff, raising kids religiously. There's some significant things that, and his lack of emotional connection or transparency, that's really big for her. And she's saying, sometimes I want to hear. It's not enough to know, which is important. Most people want to hear things like that. And I just don't know where Ryan is going to feel comfortable enough to provide that for her. So she might feel disconnected after this process if he doesn't step it up. And based on what he has told us before, he's been in long-term relationships where he has not provided like a significant amount of emotional transparency or engagement. So it's no telling with them. But I did notice that this week Clara felt like she was more satiated in their relationship. So something's got to be going on. We can infer, right? Because that's all we can do at this point. So that is Ryan and Clara. Next we have Brianna and Vincent. So, I was watching this and I was telling my husband that everybody kind of warned, the whole season warned us about Brianna and her being bossy. I mean, they really set it up to where you thought she was going to be a nightmare. Vince is the problem, though. Vince seems to be the problem. And not to say Brianna's perfect. I've talked about her at different reviews when she had certain things she could work on. But Brianna has the right attitude in terms of taking things as they come, really being willing to be redirected, except, okay, she's not flexible, okay? I'm not, because I can hear everybody saying, but she doesn't compromise. Brianna has issues, okay? She does. But she seems to be a little more flexible in like taking things on the chin. It's not like this uncomfortable, like almost like scary state of being with Brianna where you don't know how she's going to react, or she's going to shut down for the rest of the night, or she's going to turn a situation that could be sweet sour simply because she has no coping mechanisms, or she doesn't know how to be comfortable with what is, and she's stuck in her head about what it could be or what she hoped it was. All of that is Vinny. And he really needs to unlearn that and get comfortable. He needs to have more situations that lend itself to, hey, I thought this was going to be terrible, but now it's not, and I'm okay with that. They have their solo date, and Brianna plans this horse ride. She's thinking, hey, let's do something adventurous. Okay, Vinny is not into it. Vinny is scared of the horses. And listen, no judgment there, because me and my husband were like back and forth about this, because he was like, get over it. I am not an animal gal, okay? I too am scared of horses. I'm scared of many things. On our honeymoon, though, we planned a scenic horse ride up a trail of a mountain, and it ended up in the water. I was terrified. I got on this horse though, and I'm glad I did it. I'm not gonna do it again, but I'm glad I did it. It was a great experience. And I just wasn't a sourpuss about it after the fact. It was like, wow, I actually did that. He can't even have that moment. Like, because at first he wasn't going to get on there. And he finally got on there. You survived, bro. You survived. It was fine. They didn't gallop anywhere. And he gets on and he basically is a sourpuss about it. And that's what irritates me about it. He can't even see the beauty and like, oh, okay, I was really scared. I wasn't comfortable. but we made it. And that's like a memory that you have with your spouse. And even if you don't want to do something like that again, there's a way to say it that isn't chastising her and making her feel like she did something wrong by trying to add a little adventure. And let's be real, everybody is an adventurous. It's clear that Brianna is adventurous and Vinny is not. But every now and then you're going to do something with your spouse that you don't necessarily care to do or you don't really like. Take it on the chin. I feel like if Vinny doesn't like it, he ruins the moment. Like if I did not want to do the horse thing with my husband, I wouldn't ruin it for him. Go ride the horse. I'll be back here sipping a pina colada. If you can't join in, then surely don't ruin. But I feel like Vinny ruins things because he has zero to none or little to none where he can cope. And that is frustrating because it's going to get old. It's going to feel like she is suffocating because she can't do the right thing or she can't do anything or it has to be all these things. He just feels like the princess in this scenario. It's like, you know, step up, like get over it. You survived. Like, why are we still responding as if this is something you're about to do? You already did it. It really wasn't that bad. He didn't freak out while he was up there. So I can't understand why it's like, don't do this again. But once again, we see, you know, Brianna isn't always flexible, but we see where she's trying to be flexible. So she's like, okay, so next time, maybe not surprise, maybe that's, and it's like, next time, maybe I shouldn't do something nice for you. Because that's what it just comes down. Maybe I shouldn't just surprise you and I should run everything by you because you're a difficult person. He's gonna have to really work on that. Because it's just gonna be like, let's just do something normal because Vinny's gonna ruin it. And it could have been something different. It really could have been. They still are my fave for this season. They have stuff to work through, but they met 7 weeks ago. So it's not stuff that like will take them out the game, but they really do need like couples counseling moving forward, which I think everybody can benefit from at the beginning of a marriage, even if you've known each other a long time, because stuff comes up. Marriage is a mirror. There's only things that you see when you're married, and you know, a little guidance at the beginning isn't the worst thing. So they'll say yes. So that is Brianna and Vincent. Last, we have Eric and Virginia. So Virginia really got on my nerves. She really got on my nerves this episode. I couldn't, because it was my TV, I couldn't throw anything at it, you know, because it wasn't worth it. But God, I wanted to just chuck something at her. She really got on my nerves. It should just be like Married at First Sight, you know, felines. She's just, we know Eric, so I'm going to do my disclaimer, just like I did for Brianna. We know Eric has its issues. We know Eric can be somewhat controlling. I think Eric in this episode said, you know, I don't give ultimatums. And I was thinking, I've heard you give plenty of I'm done, or if this doesn't do this, I'm out. Like, so, okay, Eric, you do give ultimatums. I digress, because I'm not going to get on you totally this week. But we truly saw Virginia's inability to be flexible this week. It really irritated me. Why did you join this experiment? Because you're really not ready. Her inability to understand just the logic and maybe moving with him temporarily while they come up with a real plan to move. She prioritizes everybody but Eric, really. She prioritizes her friends. She prioritizes her family. And I get it, they just met. But quickly, you have to learn how to prioritize your spouse. Even if it's somebody that you've known a long time, once you get married, you really do have to quickly learn that your spouse is like the priority and that's your go-to person. And that can take a shift, but it takes a intentional shift because you're so accustomed to calling your mom, calling your dad, calling your sister, calling your friends. And you really have to learn to shift that intentionally, and then it becomes normalized. But it does take some intentionality, which Virginia is just like resting on, well, I'm not used to it and it's only been 6. I get that, but it doesn't really seem like you're making any move toward that. And I know Eric has a part to play in that, but I don't think she's trying. She's resting in where she's comfortable. And for her to be so inflexible, I think she said something like her lease is up X amount of days, so she's gonna live with somebody else, or I think family, for a few months before they figure out what they're gonna do. You can live with Eric for a few months before you figure out what you're gonna do. It's like she doesn't want to let go of her independence. She doesn't want to really make any concessions. These animals, forgive me, y'all, because I'm not an animal girl. I've already said that, but I get it. People love their animals. They're like children to them, whatever. They cannot be more important than your spouse if you really want to be with them. The conversation about her cats having to sleep in the bed and their emotional well-being, them cats are fine. Playing with lint balls right now. You've been gone 6 weeks. They're fine. Her inability to prioritize Eric and the fact that he's allergic and these cats have to sleep on her, and her explanation as to why this has to happen blew my mind. To me, if it, one episode is about Rocky, then the next episode is about these damn cats. These, to me, I really looked at her and I was thinking, these have got to be like emotional support animals. That's the only way it makes sense, because you're that desperate for them and the comfort of them. They don't need you. Them cats are fine. They don't need you. They are fine. She needs those cats and that dog more than they need her. Honestly, it's why she cannot part. Therapist hat on, because therapist hat off, she's getting on my damn nerves. Therapist hat on. If we think about it, because she doesn't want to be alone when those 4 months, so she wants to go live with somebody. I don't even know what her whole setup is, because I thought she lived alone and she worked and did all these things. If we think about it, she lived, I believe, and correct me with the age because I don't remember, but I believe she moved in with her aunt at 16. And I think that part of her issues and part of her trauma is like abandonment issues, because it's not like her parents were, it's not like her parents passed away. It's not like, she was given up for adoption, or like nothing that would make sense. So your parents are alive and well. They're in different spaces. Your mom moved, or whatever the story is. You didn't want to live with dad because you weren't getting along. So you have your parents here, yet you're living with your aunt. However that came to be, however the details are that we won't know, there's a level of abandonment there. So there's that. And that's at that age. I do believe that it's 16 or somewhere around there. I also would want to know, and my husband kept asking me this too, what age she started drinking. I would not be surprised if she started drinking significantly early. Virginia didn't wait till 21 to have a drink, okay? So when you have trauma at a certain age, there's a part of you that is forever stunted unless you really process and work through that at that age. So when you sit there and look at Virginia's callousness and inability to be flexible and inability to put logic before emotion, no matter what. If somebody said, hey, that girl over there, she's 16, that would make sense to me. All of her antics, if you told me it was a 16-year-old engaging in these antics and responding this way with no care, no concern for the future, and not thinking about it, because those teenagers, they swear they know everything. We've all been there. But there's an inability to think long term and think about the consequences long term. Your brain has not fully developed up at that point in your teenagers. So there's a reason why teenagers kind of just YOLO, because it'll be fine. They're not developed enough to go beyond a certain point. Virginia gives me that. She's stunted. She's stunted at 16 with the trauma of kind of having to be somewhere that her parents aren't, and they're divorced and not getting along with dad, and moving in with her aunts. And she said that she was very independent very early. People see that and they hear that and they're, oh, great, she's independent. But that independence and the need to be independent so early is often met with a negative reason as to why that has to happen. So we're seeing the fallout here. And it just, when I really wrapped my mind around, what if I sat here and watched her as if she was a 16-year-old, none of her antics now bother me. The 16-year-old wanting the cats to sleep in the bed because she needs those cats. Those cats are her emotional support, and she doesn't care that Eric is going to inhale and just die because he's allergic to cats. She doesn't care, because in her mind, it's not going to be that bad. And Eric, in this episode and in this season, is like the adult and is saying, no, it is going to get that bad. Like, you think you know, but you have no idea, like adults do. Like, you look at kids and you're like, you think you know, but it's not necessarily going to be that simple, or it may not turn out that way. So, long story long, Virginia and Eric are not going to work long term. They'll stay together, but I don't think they're really going to work long term for many reasons. But I also think they both have their issues. They both need some work. But I also think Virginia's not ready to be married. She's not ready to make some of the concessions that come with marriage. She really has to deal with some of her trauma responses and process some of her stuff. She's not really ready to make anybody number one in her life. And her family has said, oh, she's hard to get to know, she's hard to trust. She's also only 26. And depending on what generation you're from, 26 can be very seasoned, very much an adult. This generation is not a seasoned adult 26. You'll find them, but she needs to wait. She needs to wait. And I will go back to the very first review that I did when I said that they did Eric a disservice by matching him with somebody like Virginia. Not to say he's perfect, but he's already been married. He's much older. They needed someone who could really fall in line with what he needed, and someone who was ready, and someone who's just more mature. And she's not. And he has his stuff to work on too, but this episode really made me just want to, like, you know, a little violence. I wanted to choose violence during this episode in a different way, because I wanted to choose violence every time I watched Chris and Paige. But this episode was just like, this is ridiculous. And it just made me think, what is behind here? You know, it can't just be about what I'm seeing. It can't just be her being stubborn. What is behind this inability? And it's a lot of what I just said. That's my 2 cents on this week. Of course, let me know what you guys think. I always enjoy reading all the comments. I read all the comments as they come in. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. And I will see you guys next week. Everyone have a wonderful weekend.